Then a sudden switch to say, I'll open a college. How did that just happen?
Well, I used to, something about teaching still stayed with me. So I joined IMS as a part-time, instructor for CAT aspirants.
Hello everyone and welcome to Education Evangelist of India Season 3. This is a show that recognizes some of the leading educators of our country for their path-breaking efforts in reforming the education system. Whether we talk about a small retail shop or the biggest conglomerates in the world, they have one aspect in common. They all have one individual spearheading the entire operation. So we all know the importance of leaders in the modern economy as well. A strong economy is built by strong leaders and visionaries. Today, we explore the world where leaders are created. To understand the world of business management, we welcome Professor Charanpreet Singh. He is the founder of Praxis Business School. Hi sir, it's very nice to have you here.
My pleasure actually, yeah.
Firstly, I was quite intrigued by the name of your institution. It's called Praxis.
Yeah.
Yeah. And from what I understand, it's a Greek word. Would you like to tell our viewers how that name came about and what it means?
Yeah, the name actually praxis is a word that means translation of theory into practice.
Okay.
And when we set out to...
And it's a Greek word.
It's a Greek word, popularized by Karl Marx
Okay.
and later on in a lot of other places. And when we started this institution, we wanted to kind of blend theory with practice.
That was the intention?
That was the intention, to have managers who are strong, who have a strong foundation in theory, but can also put it into practice and make good decisions when they are working. So
and speaking of practice, before you started teaching others, you've done a lot of practice yourself, right?
Yeah.
So why don't you walk us through your own journey? You are an educator now, but walk us through your journey of your education and then the various jobs you did that brought you till the point where you opened Praxis.
I went to IIT Kanpur for 4 years, tough and enriching times. And then I started my corporate journey. I joined British Oxygen on the shop floor, worked 3 years there, and then I did an MBA at the University of Iowa, which was again a great experience because learning took on a totally different dimension because the way learning happens there is a little different from, and that's where I first taught as a teaching assistant for my scholarship. I taught a full-fledged course in marketing, and then I realized that I love teaching. But I never thought that a couple of decades later it will have such a big impact on my life, right? I mean, it was just something that I did.
That doesn't mean one opens a campus.
Absolutely, yeah. And then when I came back to India, I worked with Tata Steel in international trade. Then I worked with PwC for a brief while in consulting. And when I left the corporate world to start this institution, I was working with HP. I was looking after marketing for Hewlett Packard.
So, a lot of corporates, a lot of typical multinational corporate engineer, MBA, one of those my batchmates basically, that kind of a life. Even I had that life. I was in corporates and everything. But then a sudden switch to say, in your hometown itself, to say, I'll open a college. How did that just happen?
Well, I used to, something about teaching still stayed with me. So I joined IMS as a part-time, instructor for CAT aspirants. We were all
while you were at HP?
While I was at Tata Steel. I mean, I did that for a while. Okay, and the chief of IMS, Mr. Kamlesh Sajnani, so he sensed my interest in teaching and spending time with students and all of that. So it was actually his proposal that, why don't you join me and let's start a business school. And he's been the guiding light for all of us because so that's when I started thinking that we always, and you would have also experienced that we always complain as industry people that educational institutes are not creating students who are employable, and I thought this gives me a chance to visualize and build something the way I would want to with like-minded people. So that's the time I took that decision.
But it's still hard to give up a job as HP Director Marketing and say, I want to just bet my career on something like this, or was it something different? You just had a calling, you said, Abhi, this is what I want to do.
Actually, it's hard. And when I think back, a million things could have gone wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but maybe at that time, this idea just looked too tempting and fetching.
That you'll have your own college.
Yeah, we'll start a college, and I love spending time with students. I mean, I do that all the time. And I said, we'll have students who will graduate, who get jobs out of there, and we will kind of facilitate their learning. So I think that the whole glamorousness of it, or the glamour of it for me.
I don't know if it's glamour. I think it truly is your passion. I mean,
I was discovering it as a passion. Sometimes when you teach again and again, you sometimes wonder, is that really what I wanted to do? But when you don't teach for a while, I feel that no, it really is.
Yeah.
But you're right, it was a tough decision and a risky one.
I can totally imagine.
Yeah.
And on that note, we have something on our screens. Please have a look.
Yeah.
I'm a BTech Computer Science engineer with a relevant 3 years, 7 months of experience across 2 companies, namely Cognizant Technologies Solutions and Nature Technology Private Limited. I've been a software developer for across 3 years. Before joining Praxis, my very first choice was a course that can actually give me a boost in terms of data science. That's why I chose Praxis. I have some seniors working at Cognizant who were actually a pass out from this college. That's how I got to know about Praxis. Praxis has helped me a lot in terms of boosting my career, whether it's the last minute of handling pressure, whether it's the projects that are given at that are mostly aligned to industry level standards. Apart from that, I would also like to add speculations in terms of machine learning, whether it's in terms of the Capstone project. They have actually inculcated me with some varied kind of knowledge. I would like to thank Praxis because they have actually helped me get placed in ICICI Business Intelligence Unit the very first day. Thanks a lot to Praxis.
Praxis Business School started its journey in 2007 in collaboration with XLRI. It is a new age based school which works towards excellence in quality education, research and entrepreneurial development in the field of management sciences, data sciences and cybersecurity. It is one of the pioneers in offering data science programs in India.
But what was your childhood like? I mean, in Calcutta, growing up, a simple family?
Yeah, absolutely. Simple family, people trying to recreate their lives after the partition. And so we used to speak Punjabi at home, and I used to speak English, Hindi and Bengali at school. So learned 4 languages. My sister and I mean, my memories are listening to old Hindi film songs and radio, which I still do. It's a passion. And then radio commentary. Trying to get BBC to catch India playing England, and hockey was big those days. I was always into sport, both as a participant and a thing. And of course, I really feel that my parents, for the times that they were, look at those times and look at what their history was. They were really cool, rational, liberal, gave us a lot of freedom. Education was important because they thought that's the path to success, So I think that's what I really remember of my childhood. I think it shaped what I am today.
Okay, great. When you started Praxis, what was it like? Did you get a lot of students? Was it tough in the first few years? What were some of those times like?
Oh, not at all. I mean, it wasn't easy at all. And at that point in time, I used to myself, ask myself this question, that why should somebody choose a new B school called Praxis in Kolkata out of the 3,000 available already with a track record, right? But what we did was we started with a kind of an academic association with XLRI at that time, and that gave us a little bit of equity. Okay, it was a 18-month association that we had, and then I think there were the pluses and minuses of Kolkata. One is there weren't too many B schools at that time, unlike some of the other metros. The minuses is that a lot of people from Kolkata go out, to study. Yeah. So we struggled to get students, but after a couple of batches, that became better because I think the word of mouth worked for us.
So how many, okay, so
Yeah.
it took 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, it's still a struggle because if you look at all the big B schools, they're all expanding capacity. The number of IIMs has increased dramatically. So there's always I think to get a student of the quality and attitude that you want, I think is always a struggle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. But today, like that time was challenging, but today after so many years, what would you tell someone that why should they join Praxis? What is different about it?
Yeah, so I mean, if you look at a great place to study.
Yes, why is Praxis a great
Yeah.
place to study, as we like to say?
Yeah, so I think for me, a great place to study is synonymous with a great place to learn, right? And I think Praxis is a great place to learn, and I'll quickly tell you why. I mean, so for me, we always have to answer 3 questions: why, how, and what. So the why is, why do we exist? Why do we do what we do, right? And the second is, how do we approach doing what we do? And the third is, what we do on ground, right? So I think that we are firmly of the belief that we exist to create resources that will play leadership roles in India's digital transformation. That's the purpose of our existence, right? And the way we go about it, the how of it is to create an environment that is conducive to learning, which requires faculty of a very high pedigree and maturity, which fortunately we have been able to have and retain. And the second is creating a fear-free environment for debate, questions, doubts, making people independent and critical thinkers, right? So that they should question rather than just simply absorb content. And you need faculty who love that challenge, where that is I think the how of it, where we really feel that, and in the process they become better learners, and that's the whole objective. And finally, what do we do? So I think that at the end of it, we create people who become good at thinking and good at learning, and the subjects are just a way of getting that done. And I feel that if you are good at thinking and good at learning, then the ROI is lifelong. Yeah, so I mean, and that's the intent we have, and I think that we are honest in that intent. So as long as we keep our honesty, as we grow, because there's always sometimes a trade-off. Yeah, I think as long as we keep that intent, I think Praxis would continue to be a great place to study.
Yeah, in fact, we spoke to some of your students, and they had some things to say, which I'm sure you'd love to see.
Yeah.
So.
The one thing that I am really grateful to Praxis is the change in the thinking capabilities that it has done to me. The learning pedagogy that we generally follow in our country, it's a very rudimentary and it's a very monotonous one. But the one great thing that Praxis provides you, it teaches you how to learn. It does not only provide you with materials, it provides you with the way of learning, and that is one great thing which is very important for every successful manager out there, because you don't only need to learn the concepts, you need to learn to adapt and learn to how to learn new things. So learning how to learn is the main fundamental principle of this college's learning technique.
We had a lot of stuff which we had to compete for orders in Eastern India. Then one day, Charanpreet disappeared from the environment. Few days later, he landed up in my place and asked a very interesting question. He said, "Look, Prithvish, we have been selling American and Chinese hardware to people in India. Why don't we turn around and try to showcase and sell Indian talent outside India?" And from there, I think the whole thing started. He was already into this building this school, and then he roped me in also. And two of us who were earlier competitors, we came together as collaborators to turn the tide around from selling things into India to now exporting talent out of India.
That's nice. You must feel good.
Yeah.
Anything I might have missed out, or any message you have for people at the end you want to say?
I would say that we need to create skills for the future, and sometimes educational institutions end up teaching what they are good at and comfortable with, Whereas I think and this is a message to all the educational institutions also, that we need to get out of our comfort zone and plan, and we have to learn a lot to be able to teach what is going to be important for future. And similarly, from the students' point of view, I think if they don't adopt what is there in the next 4-5 years, they would be taking a big risk.
Thank you so much for coming. Before I let you go, we just do one thing. We do a photo hanger ritual.
Yeah.
We take a picture together. I give you a memento. But thank you so much
Thanks
for
very
coming,
much.
and it was wonderful chatting with you.
My pleasure entirely. Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining me on this engaging episode of Education Evangelist of India, Season 3, powered by Great Place to Study. I'll catch you guys on the next episode. Until then, goodbye and take care.